All right. Hi, everyone. And as advertised, this is Steve Strother with Finding Men's Peace. And I have with me Karen Shabel from KarenShabel.com. And before we start, I'll just talk a little bit about what I do at Finding Men's Peace. I am a coach for men. And so I offer various programs for men, both group coaching as well as one-on-one coaching to help men move from places of frustration and overwhelm to more joy, peace, and love in their life. So that's me, and I'll turn it over to Karen so she can tell you more about what she does. All right, Karen.
Hi, thank you, Steve. And thank you for letting me part of this talk today. So I am Karen Shabel, and I'm a weight loss life RN coach. So I was a registered nurse for a very long time, and how I became to be working with women on weight loss was first one, I worked at the bariatric clinic where men went for stomach surgery to lose weight. And I watched my clients, I'm coaching them and watching them have that surgery and gain it back again. Because the underlying core reasons weren't worked on. Food is only part of losing weight. If there's so many other things inside of us, you won't lose that weight. You'll keep gaining it back. And I understand because for over 20 plus years, I struggled with the weight loss issue. I gained and lost and did every diet. And at realized I had to go and do something different. It wasn't another diet I needed. I started working on myself. I started working on everything that was sabotaging me from losing the weight. I had such low self-confidence, self-esteem. I was depressed. It was because what was going on inside of me. So I did that work, and my whole life shifted. I was like my whole life, like I wasn't depressed anymore. I didn't have that anxiety. I was able to leave a very unhealthy marriage. And because of all the inner work, I lost 100 pounds and I've kept it off for over 14 years now. And that is what my passion is helping women losing weight for the last time, but working on what's sabotaging them. It's not another diet all of us women need, even men too, but I primarily work with women. It's why we keep struggling. What's holding us back? It's all the inner work that needs to be looked at. I talk about an iceberg. The food is only the tip of that iceberg. It's everything underneath that surface that's holding us back in our life. So yeah, I just love doing this and working. And I do one-on-one coaching, and the women I work with, their lives. Like, women come for losing weight, but they leave with the confidence and the self-esteem, and that just lights me up.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, there's some correlation there with me as well. I mean, as far as what I do with men and helping men move out of that frustration and overwhelm to joy and peace. In that, I mean, that's same here. I lived through, and basically lived through, but I experienced all of that. As far as being in a position where I was frustrated, overwhelmed by everything. Relationship and career, and finally getting to the point where I just knew I had to make some changes and transforming. So I think transformation is a big piece of what we both help people with. One other thing I meant to ask before, just so everyone knows, where are you located? Where are you joining the call from?
I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So right. I'm up here.
Right. Awesome. Good deal. And I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Karen and I, we've had some discussions in the recent past regarding what it is that each of us does, and we started to realize that there are a lot of similarities. Although Karen works mostly with women and I work mostly with men, there are still a lot of similarities as far as what we see with the people that we work with, and what we what we help people with and what we're doing through the service that we provide. And so in that discussion, as we were looking at it and what was one of like the key areas of similarity, Karen came up with the idea that became our title, which is everybody's normal is different. So I wanted to kind of turn things over to Karen so she can talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to have a discussion back and forth on that. Just so you know, for whatever reason, and this happens sometimes on these live discussions, there's a kind of some feedback and echo that happens when Karen talks, and it's coming from my side apparently. So I'm going to mute while she's talking. So there'll be a little delay as we switch between conversations. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and mute so that Karen can go ahead. So thanks, Karen.
No problem. Yeah. So how we came up with this, or how, I came up in this normal, because I was so interested in talking with Steve on hearing a man, the male perspective on things. And like from a woman's perspective, normal to so many women is this skinny version. We see on TV that normal looking woman who's thin and God has it all together, and a perfect house and the perfect life. Like that, I know for me way back when, that was normal. That's what I thought I should be, thought what I should have. And then as I went on this transformation journey, you just think like we are so trying to be normal, to fit in, to fit in and be normal, that we're not enjoying who we are. We're trying to be somebody different. We're not even accepting where we are or who we are. Like for women, we have a little cellulite. Well, that's not normal. We better get it off. And we're beating ourselves up because we don't think we're normal. But you know what? Who's to say what is normal? Is the media out there is trying to tell us that's what's normal. But you know what? We are all normal. We're all our normal. Like that's what gets me is like we're trying to strive to be something that social media and that is telling us we should be. And that's what causes so much pain and frustration in so many people, women especially. Like when we're trying to strive to be there and we're not there, we won't love ourselves. We don't love ourselves because we're trying to be somebody different. But it really, like for me, one of the big things to lose weight for me was I had to love where I was, who I was, because when you're not fighting against that, like how you feel when you're coming from that place is so, like you talk about peace and calm. It's a calm, neutral feeling. And from that place, we can do whatever we need to do from there. But when we're feeling so much heaviness from feeling we're not normal, that's what spirals us down. That's what causes us to keep on the journey of depression and anxiety.
Right. Wow. I mean, that's awesome. And yeah, one of my friends when in one of my prior posts when I announced what it is that we're doing, she's like, "Wow, you're normalizing the fact that there is no normal," which I thought was pretty cool. Because that's really what we're doing is there is no normal. Everybody's got their own normal is one way to put it, and so there isn't that ideal stereotype. I mean, there is a stereotype, but we don't have to live up to it. In fact, we shouldn't in a lot of ways. And so, what I've seen with men and experience myself and see with my clients is that the stereotypes that men are pushing up against, feeling like they need to live up to, are things like being the strong, silent type, being stoic. The macho, being the macho tough guy, really in a lot of cases even like the superhero image, even though there's some positive associated with that in certain cases. There's a lot of unobtainable stereotype going on there too, where yeah, and nobody can actually be that superhero you see on the screen. And like you said, it's really perpetuated through the media, and now it's perpetuated through both traditional media and social media. So yeah, so yeah, men in this case are kind of often letting themselves be put into that stereotypical man box, so to speak, and that this is what and really the trick is realizing, as we are saying, realizing those stereotypes really are unrealistic, completely unrealistic, and we're all here, we're all our own people, we're all here for a reason. We're all and the more authentic we can be, as far as doing what's right for us, rather than trying to live up to that ideal that we see in the media, the happier we're going to be in the long run too.
Yeah. Something that comes up for me right now when you're talking and sharing is why we think like what we're doing and why we're like this normal thing. What I work with my clients on is thoughts. So we are believing that to be true. We are believing that is the normal. We're believing, like, we think that's true, that that's the way it should be. But what I work with my clients on, that's only a belief that we have, because there's many people that don't believe that too. So it is literally a belief that we are wanting to hold on to, that we don't realize we have a choice. We don't have to believe that. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Exactly. So, so yeah, anything more on that before because I think we wanted to talk a little bit about emotions, which tie into this too, but is there anything else before we move into that emotions piece?
Well, I think like the big reason why I love talking to you is because you, like I was saying, you are from the male perspective, I'm from the female. And it's interesting how we hear that men and women are so different, but actually we're not, because you're struggling with trying to be normal and fit that stereotypical mold of what a male should be like. And women are too. I think things are shifting a bit in life, but we are struggling at times as well. So here we are, we think we're so different, but inside of ourselves, we're both having that same dilemma and same struggle on, we're trying to fit in and be normal. So I love hearing that, because I always like, well, I'm trying to understand, I'm remarried, and I'm always trying to understand my husband even more and connect more on a deeper level. And it's so wonderful to hear he's got this struggle too, just like women do, just like I do at times. So it makes us actually come together more to say, hey, this is a belief we don't need to choose to believe anymore. And I know for him, what came up was the provider. Like, he had to provide. Like, that's what normal men do. They provide. And I was working as a nurse, making my own money. And I think at times it bothered him a bit, maybe not a ton, but he then felt, no, but that's his role. And who's to say what it's your role? It's whatever you choose. There is no normal. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Great. That is so true. That's something that men bump into a lot, is that feeling that they are, that normal for men is to be the provider, and it can really it basically really can cause a lot of distress in men, for a lot of reasons. And as you mentioned, it's really more and more an outdated thing. I mean, it's not as much the case anymore. It doesn't have to be the case. at all. And as you mentioned, everyone's different. Every relationship's different. And in general, what I'm hearing when I talk to women, and Karen, you just brought it up, and we've talked about it before. That's less and less the expectation of what that's really less and less needed is from the perspective of women. Again, so not only that, but what a lot of times women are really needing more is that someone who's an equal partner in all areas of the relationship, and that's my perspective. But is that accurate from your perspective?
I don't know for every woman, but for me it was. Like when I came into a second marriage, that's what I wanted. I wanted us to be equal. Like I didn't expect him to do, more or less or whatever. Just let's work together and do this life together and figure it out together. It wasn't like I expected him to provide or we all bring our own skills into it and work together on how can we best bring both all of that, work it all together. So everything is a fine-tuned machine almost. But saying that, there's a lot of times where life isn't perfect. And how can we figure this out? Like I say, together again. It's not one person's fault or another. And that was what I brought into this marriage. And he didn't have that because I had done a lot more work on myself. So I could see that. But he was willing to walk that journey with me. And that was a big thing for me, to see that other person in my life wanted to work together. I mean, we had our struggles, and because it was that getting through those beliefs about what he should be, what he shouldn't be. But and what I love is, the old belief of a man should provide. So that used to be a normal, but that shows us that we can question all these normals in life because like I said, that normal is only a belief. It's not true. So I love how we can challenge things. And that's how we grow and evolve and really work together is whatever comes up, challenging it, working through it. So that's my perspective. So it's nice to always hear like your perspective. I sort of went off on a tangent a bit, didn't I?
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. So something you said really brought up a point I wanted to talk a little bit about too, that we have talked about it, but we haven't talked about it in relation to this session that we're doing right now. But you mentioned with your husband now that in the big, when your relationship started, you had done a lot of your own work. He really hadn't. That is a big thing right now. I mean, because women are really doing a lot of work and have been for a long time actually, and in general. Men are not doing that much work, and so that's one of the reasons that I started doing what I'm doing as a coach for men is I see that need. I mean, you just see it all over the place where women are really raising the bar because women are out there doing a lot of work on transforming, growing, learning, transforming, and men aren't doing as much, so women are there's a gap. There's a gap now. More and more, the gap is increasing, where women are elevating in that way. Men are not doing it so much, and it's creating because of the gap. It's creating some concerns in relationships. It's creating concerns in the workplace, etc. And so. Yeah, that's part of my mission is to really help men narrow that gap and therefore, in a lot of cases, save relationships, save men's careers and save the workplace as well because it really does affect society as a whole. In relationships, but also in the workplace too, and really everywhere. So, so yeah, I just wanted to mention that. That's something I've experienced and seen a lot, and so yeah, it's an important point. So thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that up.
Yeah, actually, I'm so grateful that you are doing what you're doing because I know for my husband, there isn't really much out there. I mean, you can go to counseling together, but I wanted him to do work for himself, and so what you're doing is invaluable. One of the things I don't know that just popped into my head was I would love for men I guess in that situation where a woman's done so much work, I think when I was, I'm a little, above and I knew what I was doing. I don't say above. I had worked on myself and I could see it in a different light. And when I was talking to him and trying to show him what I was trying to get him to understand, I don't know from his mind, but I thought that it came across that he took it as I think he was threatened a bit. I don't want to say word threatened, but I think he was intimidated, right? And so that did cause friction. And I'm not too sure if that's sort of what you were getting at, but as a woman, I had to learn, okay, I have to take into account what I know and what he doesn't know and how I see it differently, and come from a place of love and compassion and understanding that he's not getting it because he hasn't done that work to see it in a different light. And that's what shifted him. If I would have come at a place, and I did initially, it took me a while to figure this out, but I was trying to show him, okay, this and this, but then I had to step back and go, hey, he's not seeing it from this way. I have to take it. And when we were talking about holding space, so I had to hold space for him, understanding that he doesn't understand what I am trying to express to him, to get him to see in a different light. So I had to do a lot of holding space and not trying to be showing, no, look it. And that's what shifted it, because when I held space for him, I could see him being able to step back and not be so defensive and not feeling so wrong or bad or a failure or whatever it was. And that's how he was able to shift himself and learn and grow.
Wow. That's huge. I mean, I love that. I mean, I think we could probably do a whole new Facebook Live on that. That's big. Because I've actually had several women, I was going to say a lot, it actually probably is a lot, ask me, how can I reach out to the men in my life, whether it's a romantic relationship or a father, a son, friend, work colleague, because I can see that they really need or could use some guidance, but it's a difficult conversation to start because it often puts the person that you're talking to on the defensive, and so it's great to hear that you worked through that and found that way to hold space for your husband, to help him get there, to help him actually start doing some work on his own. So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Trying to think. So yeah, I'm curious here, so I want to ask about that. How did that happen? So you would come up, I was, whatever the topic might be, there was something that you were discussing with him, and so what would you do from there in order to in order to bring the topic up, but also hold space? I guess that's what I'm curious about really quick.
Okay. Well, it all starts from, and this is, I did a certification program to become, I was a nurse and I did coaching lots, but I then took a certification course on life and weight coaching. And what I learned, this changed everything for me, was everything starts with ourselves. And I got that before. I knew that in a way, but I didn't quite understand it. So when somebody's doing something, let's say my husband said, I don't like your top, just something, just whatever it is. But like, let's say there's a struggle in a marriage, right? And that other person said something, or you don't like that. What comes up is it's my thought about what he said. So it is whatever he said. So I always thought that that's the situation. He said that and it made me feel hurt. And so then I'm upset and that. But what it is it's the circumstance is only specifically the words that came out of his mouth. I used to think it was, he said that and it hurt me as the circumstance, but it's my thought about the words that came out of what he said. It's my thought. And so one of the things how you can tell if it's a thought or true circumstance, if somebody can think it differently. So you might have said, no, he didn't mean to say that. But I'm like, no, he said that and it was really rude. But that's a thought. That's not a true circumstance, a fact. And so when we can become aware that it's our brain that's sometimes causing the problems, that's causing me to feel hurt, then what do I want to do with it? And I don't want to, what I want to share with is somebody can be really like abusive. I'm not saying you take abusiveness, but what I'm saying is, then you get to decide if it's your thought, do you want to stick with that thought or do you want to have something also? So that is how I switched to become love and kind and compassion, because when I was aware that if he said something and I felt hurt by it, it was how I perceived it. It was my brain telling me that. And when I looked and going, oh, I can also think maybe he didn't mean to say that, or maybe he didn't realize how it came out. That's a loving, kind, compassionate way to be thinking and coming from. And so then I didn't get on my defense and I didn't get like attacking, because I came from it. It's my brain doing this. Or I could say, like, let's say in my past marriage, I wish I knew this back then, if it was like it was abusive, then I could say, hey, you know what? He's crossed my boundary and it's my choice to stick in this conversation or not. I'm leaving. So then I could do it. But instead I would get really emotional. And from that emotional place, I wasn't rational. So I was able to get out of an emotional reactive state and come from a loving, kind, compassionate state. And when I changed, then he started shifting too.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. And that's a big thing there. And what you mentioned as far as could someone think it differently is really powerful. And it reminds me of I have a coach that when I'm working on something, he will often ask, do you know that to absolutely be true? So it's really the same thing, I think, and it's really powerful when you look at things like that, because you're right, we tend to make assumptions about what other people say, about what various aspects of our own lives and our beliefs, as you mentioned, and having those tools like that help you realize there are other perspectives, and what can I do to move to that other perspective is huge. So thank you, because I know that that was ad lib there because we had not been thinking about or covering
Yeah.
that, but I couldn't resist
Yeah.
digging into that one. So
One of the things just to finish, I guess maybe this off, one of the things that really popped up for me in when we were talking was what also shifted was when I realized when my husband did do something that he then realized after the fact wasn't as nice, like it didn't come out as nice. And I called him on it. Like I said, I don't like that, or it hurt me. He would then go into, I didn't realize this. As we were talking, I didn't realize it. He felt really bad inside. So he went to fix it mode. And then he became defensive. He became defensive, and he was trying to justify because he was trying to fix what he did. Because as this was our other thing is he didn't know how to feel with that emotion of feeling bad of what he did. So I didn't realize that's a fix-it mode that he went into this justification and making excuses because he didn't know what else to do in that moment. And when I realized that one, and I did realize it before we even started talking, but I didn't realize it was because he felt bad. But that also shifted it too, because then I could see what he was doing and then go, I don't need that. I need you just to, we talked about this, hold space for me and listen to how I'm feeling, not to try to make it better or fix it. And all of that really made a huge difference.
Oh. Yeah. Wow. Two things. So we're going to go a little longer because I do want to say two things. One is I thought of as far as what you mentioned and how you started looking at could someone else think this differently? Think about this differently, or the other question of do you know this to absolutely be true? What you start to do when you're asking questions like that in the scenarios is you're starting to approach things from a curiosity perspective. So rather than us making the assumptions, you're starting to get curious, and when anyone can get curious, that helps to lead to basically, first of all, it helps to keep the assumptions from happening. It helps to lead to more open conversation. It doesn't put people on the defensive because you're asking questions and that type of thing. So I just thought of that, so I wanted to mention that too. And then with the holding space piece, and so yeah, men because of the stereotypes of being stoic and really there is a stereotype that men just aren't emotional, you know. And so there's that, and then the tough guy, the strong silent type. So men are looking at that as being as making that assumption that that's because of stereotype, that's normal and that's what I should be trying to live up to. And really early in life they start learning to be that way. But if you look at young kids, boys are just as emotional as girls, if not more. If you look at men that have done the work to be in touch with their emotions, they're just as emotional as women too, you know. So that is a stereotype. It's not really a correct perception, but that's where most men are, and it's not really their fault. That's just where we are as a society. Where, as you mentioned, things are getting better there. It's a gradual process, but you're right. I mean, so what I realized, and this is something we had talked about, I realized in my in my prior relationships, and especially in my two prior marriages, you know, I could hold space in a discussion, but as soon as my wife started getting emotional, that's when I got uncomfortable. And it's exactly and what you mentioned from what your experience was. Same. I was looking for a way to get out of that conversation because I wasn't comfortable with it, and I wasn't comfortable with it because I wasn't comfortable with that emotion in me. You know, like, so if she is if she was getting upset and maybe crying, oh my gosh, what do I do? And then that's where the fix it thing, I've got to do something to help her so she's not crying. But that's not really in general what she wanted at the time, and so that didn't work. And then I would just get, I would start to get upset because I didn't know what to do with it from there. And that was a realization I had not even a year ago because of some coaching I was doing when I started to really get in touch with my emotions, and I started to think about holding space and where I was with it in those relationships. That's when I realized, oh yeah, that makes sense. I wasn't comfortable with that emotion in myself, so I wasn't comfortable with it in her either, and so I wasn't able to hold the space that would have been nice if I could have, so I know that going forward, and that's a good thing. But it is interesting, and so yeah, I mean, I wanted to mention that because it is a challenge that the men do have a lot of times in relationships, because men, what they're not in general in touch with those emotions, but they do have that. They do tend to have that built-in uh, desire to help, so that they want to fix, they want to, at best they want to fix, or they want to offer solutions. At not so best, they start to judge, and none of those really generally tend to work. I mean, it's great to fix and offer solutions if asked, but if not asked, that's where the holding space piece comes into play. So yeah.
Yeah, and I get. It only was in this last year that my husband. I'm so fortunate. Like he was willing to do this work with me, but he now can hold space for me. He gets it now that, if I'm emotional, if I'm frustrated, that he's just got to allow me to just let it go. I'm a talker. I have to talk it out. And before, I think it would irritate him, because, okay, how much can you talk about it? But I need to talk it till and I think I talked because he wasn't holding the space and really listening. But now that he listens and holds that space, I don't need to talk about it as much now. So I've been very fortunate that he's allowing me to do that now. And what a difference, because tension doesn't last as long now. Frustration and tension and the emotions, they don't last. And that's what I teach my clients, is allow them to be there. Because when we fight against emotions, that's when it makes it way, way, way worse.
Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely true. And it affects people if you don't let yourself access your emotions. It affects you in so many ways that you don't realize. And that's where men tend to get on the men's side. Men get really frustrated in their lives. They get overwhelmed, and a lot of it has to do with not understanding, processing, and expressing their emotions. They're holding them in, and then one thing that happens, there are basically two emotions men generally express. One of them they're comfortable with, and that's joy or happiness. They're two different things, but they're related. And then the other is anger. And anger men can express, but then they feel guilty about it a lot of times. But what I realized after really opening up to emotions is I realized when I started opening up to sadness, fear, and anger more, I started feeling a lot more joy. I mean, and it was because I was letting those emotions out, and so when I was joyful, I had access to this whole new level of joy that I didn't even know existed. And what was happening is that anger, that built up anger, that built up sadness, that built up fear was standing in the way of a lot of my joy. Yeah, I could be happy, but I could not access that full experience of joy because, yeah, this is fun. I'm having some fun. I'm happy, but oh yeah. Yeah, I'm sad about this because I never released the sadness, or I'm overwhelmed at work, so I can't really be completely joyful because I'm not letting that emotion out about that overwhelm. So yeah.
Oh, big time. And what I work with my clients on, which is a huge part of weight loss, is emotional eating. So women don't deal with their emotions well. You think we do because we're letting them out, but we're still not dealing with them. We're still trying to numb them out and avoid and deny, and turning to food, alcohol, shopping, social media, because we don't like. It was funny because my husband's like, but you're so emotional. But yeah, I am, but I still don't know how to deal with that emotion. And so this is the thing, men and women are very, very equal in that part, because men hold them in, women let them out, but we're still both not dealing with them. We're not allowing them and processing them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And good point. And that is what we do. You know, we all do in general, until we learn those tools to really access the emotions and really express them. Is that we tend to do things to numb, you know, to in some way numb things out, and that can be all kinds of things. And you listed a lot of the really common ones, like alcohol or overeating or over shopping, you know, things like that. So yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And all right. Anything else that you wanted to cover while we're here? Or
Thank you. This was wonderful. We went over time because I love talking with you. It just rolls. And so thank you so much for allowing me to come on with you. It was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. I'm glad to have you. Yeah, I love talking with you as well. And yeah, maybe we'll do this again sometime, you know. That would be cool.
Yeah. And for me, I have a program. It's one-on-one coaching with women, helping them lose weight for the last time. And you can lose the weight for the last time once you do all this work. So a lot of stuff that we talked about on here, those are the things that I work with women on. And once you work on all that stuff, the weight really does come off. I mean, you still have to do work, but life just becomes so much easier. And when life is easier, and whatever you go through, you can go through it at a much easier level. And then weight loss ends up being a whole lot easier. So thank you. Thank you for letting me talk with you today. It was wonderful.
Sure, absolutely. And what's the best way for everyone to get in touch with you if they're wanting to talk more about with you more about what it is that you offer?
Yeah, they can go. I've got a website, KarenShavel.com, or you can go on my business page. It's Karen Shavel, and you can sign up. Just send me a message there. I also have a Facebook group. So it's a group where I'm sharing all this stuff in there, helping women, giving them tools and support. So you can reach out, and I can actually, the link is on my personal page as well. So just, I'm all out there. I can, underneath the video, I can send the link to my Facebook page in there.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Karen. That's awesome. And I am Steve Strother again, and my business name is Finding Men's Peace. I do have my website up here at peacefulmen.com, but I will leave a specific link in the comments as well. I think I'm going to leave the link to my services page because there's really two different offers that I'm promoting right now. So it's the Finding Inner Strength Fellowship, which is a monthly call for men to join to learn more about topics that they can use to build inner strength and resilience in their life, which is key right now with everything that's happening in the world today. And then I do have a group coaching group that it's called Path to Peace that's starting in late September for men who want to be coached around those topics. So Finding Inner Strength Fellowship is a group where men learn about the topics, and then men who want to be coached around them basically look at those topics in their lives, what their strengths are with a topic, like for example, taking action, what their strengths are, what their challenges are, and then I coach them around the challenges, and they also learn from the other men in the group. So I'll leave a link to that in the comments as well. And That is everything. So thank you, Karen, for joining me. This was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and we really covered. I really think there's some powerful stuff in this discussion. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Have a good day. Have a good day, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.